Today on Excellent Living, relationship coach Dr. Johnny Parker.
We really want to encourage singles to get to know a person more than getting to know a body.
This is Excellent Living with Cheryl Martin, a weekly program blending practical advice with compelling talk. I'm Doris McMillan. Today's program is designed just for singles who desire to get married and are wondering, how do you find the right one to marry? Well, that's the question Cheryl and our resident relationship coach, Dr. Johnny Parker, will address today. He joins us once a month. Johnny is an experienced marriage and family counselor, happily married to Leslyn. They have 3 sons. He's also a conference speaker and the author of the book, Renovating Your Marriage Room by Room. Johnny begins the discussion by sharing a conversation he and Leslyn had. Let's listen.
A couple of weeks ago, my wife and I were in New Jersey, and we were going to give a talk, and we were leaving the hotel, and it was a beautiful Friday evening, and we saw this couple who had obviously just said their vows, and they were taking pictures with their wedding party, and we saw the couple go outside, and she had her nice gown on, he had his nice tux, and they were taking their pictures. As we were walking by, my wife and I have been married going on 17 years, Cheryl, in June, and we just said, I wonder just how prepared they really are. I wonder, do they have a plan for resolving conflict? I wonder, when she walked down the aisle, did he realize that he was marrying someone who had shortcomings and she was saying yes to a man who has shortcomings? We kept wondering, will they have that same smile and will they have that excitement and thrill that they're experiencing right now? Do they think that this is going to last forever? Will they have, as the Righteous Brothers sang about years ago, that loving feeling? Will they lose that loving feeling? And so I just kept wondering, we just kept talking back and forth at 17 years of marriage to seeing this young, excited couple having said their vows and now taking their wedding pictures and wondering, did they have a plan for their marriage?
Take us back then, Johnny. You can relate. You've been married nearly 17 years as well as you have counseled so many couples. In your mind, how many couples really have thought that through? Did you and Leslyn have an idea 17 years ago?
Oh, Cheryl,
I do.
Yeah, I tell you, you just don't realize when we get married, we marry with stars in our eyes. I mean, romantic love is like sitting on a balcony and just think that the wedding day and the wedding night and the honeymoon this is reality. This is the way it's going to be forever. You don't think about the fact that you're going to have to deal with bills. You don't have to deal with selfishness. I mean, what man or woman on their wedding day looks at this person coming towards them, walking down the aisle thinking, I'm falling in love and I'm marrying the most selfish person in the world? No, we're thinking she looks good, he looks good. And so we don't think we're going to have fights. We're looking forward to going on that wonderful honeymoon to the Caribbean island somewhere or Hawaii. And so we think that that's reality. We don't realize that so much of that is for the moment. But when we come home from the honeymoon, after we've danced that first dance, after the rice has been thrown and the bubbles have been blown, reality sets in and we have to learn how to deal with each other day in and day out.
And you really want to help the singles, this program, take a look at how to find the right person.
Absolutely. Cheryl, it's so important for us to understand that there are 3 critical decisions that we must make in this life that many of us will make. Not all of us won't make these decisions, but 2 of these decisions are absolutely critical. One of the decisions that all of us must make, who will be our master? Bob Dylan sang a song some years ago, says, we all will serve somebody. The question is, who will be our master? Of course, for you and me, we believe that master is the Lord Jesus Christ. And that's the hope that we have for each person, that Christ would be master of their life. Well, that's one decision. Critical and the most important decision, has eternal ramifications. The second most important decision is, what will be our mission? We have been born and created and designed by God for a purpose, to serve him. We have been designed for a purpose, a mission, a calling on our lives. And then the third critical decision that not everyone, but many people will make this summer, there will be many people making the decision on their mate, getting married. Who will be my mate? And so those 3 critical decisions of master, mission, and mate are very, very important.
And can actually determine the quality of the rest of your life.
Absolutely. So when we talk about proper mate selection, we need a professional mate selector, as one pastor said, and we believe God is the divine mate finder. He has given us the map in his word as to qualities that we ought to be looking for in a mate.
What should we base our decision on regarding a spouse?
Well, I tell you, Cheryl, so many people, of course, in our culture, in our day, we make decisions on what we see in the media. I mean, I don't know if you ever watched the show The Bachelor or The Bachelorette.
Yes.
I've caught it from time to time, and I'm amazed that when I've seen the women going after The Bachelor, that they will put themselves out there. They will almost sell their birthright to get this man. I mean, you got 30 women going after this one man, and these men, will you take this rose? And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I can't imagine. I would hate to see my sister go on a show like that. And these are beautiful women, but you're wondering, is that the way I find a mate? I go on The Bachelor or I go on The Bachelorette and go on a date and he's kissing on 30 other women and he's trying to make a decision or she's trying to make a decision after kissing on 30 men. That's the way I make a decision to find a mate? I don't think so. But I tell you, the wedding business is big business. There'll be thousands of people, couples in this world making that decision to walk down the aisle or go to the courthouse, the justice of the peace, and decide on a mate. And Cheryl, the thing that's interesting is this. Do you realize that the average couple will spend over 200 hours planning on a wedding? And
One day.
And will spend up to 20 or 30,000 K for a one-day event, over 200 hours, and only about 8 to 10 hours discussing details of being married, finances, a conflict resolution plan, sex, children, how will we spend the holidays? And so we believe, of course, on this show that we want to help singles, dating couples, engaged couples build on the right foundation, a Christ-centered marriage.
So again, we have all these options today. You've got people choosing, as you said, when we look at Bachelorette or The Bachelor.
Right.
What is that firm foundation? You also have the popularity of the online.
Yeah, exactly.
Match.com is
Sure.
extremely popular.
Yeah, eHarmony.
eHarmony.
Yep.
What's the right data
Yeah.
for people who say, if I want to make sure I find the right person, what's the answer?
Well, I tell you, Cheryl, first thing is, and I know you talk about this in First Class Single as well, you want to be the right person. Okay. And being the right person is, I want to first be grounded in my relationship with the professional mate selector, the divine mate selector, God himself. And so we want to be first connected with God and align with God properly as a single man or single woman. And then I want to take my cues. I want to look at the Bible as my roadmap. Okay, if I'm trying to go somewhere, our destination is marriage, then I want to look at the Bible as the map. I want to make sure that if I'm trying to go to California, I am not going through Louisiana and Mexico to try to get there. And God has given us in his word. This is the deal though, Cheryl. There is a way which seems right to a man. There is a way, check this out, which seems right to a single. But if it's not God's way, God says it's a dead end.
And I find it interesting that you're saying go by his map, because in the 21st century, a lot of people would say, well, what could God possibly have to say about finding a mate? And that seems just such an old-fashioned way to do it when we've got computer technology.
Yeah.
But I say he was a manufacturer. He was the one who thought up marriage.
Yeah, he invented the game of love. Sure.
And he also was the first matchmaker.
Exactly.
So he has a better understanding of what is best for us more than we do.
And the question is, if God's ways don't work, then why are so many marriages not making it? Why are so many people who are married frustrated in their marriage? Why do so many feel, as one survey asked, would you marry your spouse again? And some said, many answered, no. Second time around, if they had a choice to do it all over again, they would not marry their spouse over again. Well, if God's ways are not the way to go, then why are we so miserable then in our marriages? Why aren't so many people making it and enjoying and thriving in their marriages? I believe God designed marriage, as you always say, to not have a good marriage, but a great relationship, a great marriage. That's why we're here. That's what this is all about.
And you believe, Johnny, before we really get beneath the surface and looking at finding the right mate, it's important to dispel lies
Absolutely.
that singles believe about finding a spouse.
Sure. We have to expose the lies because it's like what Jesus says in John 10:10. The thief comes to steal, to kill, and to destroy. Okay? Jesus says, I've come that you might have life and have it more abundantly. So we first must expose the lies so that we can then walk in truth. We can walk in the light. And so we want to look at those lies.
6 lies.
6 of the lies.
And
absolutely.
the first one is?
The first one is, Cheryl, I'll just know love at first sight. I don't believe in love at first sight. I think it's critical to have love with insight. Okay. And so there are people who say, I just loved you when I saw you. No, that was hormonal. Okay. That was your flesh. That was, you may have thought she was attractive or he was pretty handsome and you were interested in getting to know them a little better. But to say you loved them and you knew they were the one, you better still take some time to study and get to know that person before you rush into anything. And it takes wisdom, it takes time, it takes studying. I mean, Cheryl, think about it. If you had your own corporation and I want to come work for you, would you just hire me because you thought I was a nice guy? You'd want to find out some things about me. You got a corporation. You want to interview me. You want to ask me questions about where have you worked before.
Background check. References.
All those things. So the same thing is true. If a person has never been married or been married before, I want to know what happened in your first marriage. How do you manage money? We want to make sure that this is a good fit, just like you would do in applying for a job. So why do some people, they'll spend more time learning their career and thinking about a job interview and developing their resume, but why don't we develop our relational resume, our dating resume? Why don't we do that? Why do we rush into this based on, I just loved you because you just look good, or we make these emotional decisions without really thinking through the ramifications.
Good, Johnny. The second lie.
Second lie is, let's live together first. This is the test run. This is the test drive. Let's test and see, can we live together first? Okay. And to be honest, Cheryl, before I knew the Lord, that made sense to me. That made sense to my fleshly mind. Before I get married, I need to live with a woman first so I can see what she's going to be like and see if we're going to be compatible. That made all kinds of sense to me because I came to know Christ and my eyes were open. I could see how foolish that idea was.
But some would say, why is it foolish?
Well, great question. One, biblically, it's inappropriate. God says we need to avoid the appearance of evil. We're playing house without a covenant. Marriage is a covenant. It's not a contract. A covenant is not based on passing feelings. A contract is based on something very superficial and shallow and keeping agreements. A covenant is something that is long lasting. I commit to you to death do us part is in marriage. But the other thing, apart from the biblical, Cheryl, do you realize sociologists have done studies and they've shown that couples who live together, these are not people, sociologists who necessarily love the Lord or follow the scriptures, but they found couples who live together first have a higher incidence of affairs and a higher incidence of divorces. And you know why? It's because when you get married and you're not living together, you're mentally thinking through this commitment. I remember clearly when I was 27 years old thinking I was committing myself to Leslyn. I was committing myself to marrying this woman. We didn't live together. We didn't get involved in premarital sex. But mentally, that was what my mind was going through, what this is going to be like to be married. Well, when you're living together, in your mind, you always know you can leave at any time. The back door in your mind is open. Well, if you do get married after living together, guess what? That mindset doesn't change. You're still kind of thinking you can leave at any time.
You're listening to relationship expert Dr. Johnny Parker on the weekly broadcast Excellent Living with Cheryl Martin. Today's topic, Finding the Right One. To learn more about this program, just visit excellentliving.org. That's excellentliving.org. Now, back to Johnny and Cheryl.
We're talking about lies. 6 lies that singles believe about finding a spouse. We've covered 2 already, Johnny, and lie number 3.
Lie number 3, Cheryl, is we have good sex, so I know this one is right. Well, the problem with that is, again, biblically, it's inappropriate. God says that we should abstain from fornication. And so God is the one who has said that sex is a great thing, yet he designed it for the context of marriage. We've done a whole show around the 10 Commandments of a healthy sexual relationship. But the problem also is that sex is deceiving. When couples are dating and they have sex, it can make them feel electrified, closer than they really are. And what happens again in our culture, two people after the second or third date have sex, and then they say, let me now get to know who you really are. It's like building a house, Cheryl. For whatever reason, when we build a house, we first lay the foundation and then we add the rooms to the house. And I know when people come to our house, we show them the kitchen, we show them Leslie's office on the first floor, we show them into the basement, we show them the living room and the dining room. And then we go upstairs, we show them our boys' rooms. And for whatever reason, we always show our master bedroom last. You can't build a relationship on the physical and the sex. When you're married, you need to have time to talk, okay? Singles understand. In marriage, married people do not sit around all day having sex. Someone has to go to work. Someone has to do the cooking. Bills got to be paid. House got to be clean. So marrieds don't have this sex marathon. I think a lot of singles believe that. And so sex is deceitful in making us think that we're closer than we really are.
I so agree with that. I would also add, Johnny, that a lot of times in dating relationships, what can happen is when couples start getting physical, they do stop talking and getting to know each other, because if they're honest with themselves, what's really propelling the date is the sex.
Exactly.
And it's kind of hard to go back from having sex to just holding hands.
Exactly. That's not
and
enough.
Talking.
Exactly.
Because the reason why you're hooking up is to fulfill the sexual desire.
Exactly.
And I think a lot of times a woman would have to wonder, is he really into me for me?
Right.
Or just because I'm available for sex?
Bingo.
Am I being used?
Right.
I think, unfortunately, an insecure woman may offer up the sex.
Hoping that
in hopes of getting the guys. I say in my book, a woman will give up sex in hopes of getting love.
Getting love.
A man will talk love talk
to get the sex
in hopes of getting sex. And God never designed us to go after the gift more so than the marital relationship.
Absolutely.
That it's a fringe benefit of being married.
Right. It's a gift. It's like Christmas. Jesus do not want to open up the Christmas present before time. And we really want to encourage singles to get to know a person more than getting to know a body.
We are halfway through the list of 6 lies. Johnny, what is number 4?
Number 4 comes up from time to time that I've had singles say, Cheryl, that, you know what, I think that this person could be the right one because we make good business partners. We work well together. And that's not a bad thing, but the problem is we don't simply get married because we make good business partners. It works well for us economically or financially. That's what they're saying. We team up and we really know how to manage money together.
Or are they talking about, I have a good salary, he has a good salary. We put those two together, will be, as they used to say, sitting pretty.
Sitting pretty, and it's built on a financial foundation. And there's nothing wrong with sitting pretty and managing money well and those things. But if we're not careful, we can miss the meatier things such as who are you spiritually? Now, apart from we make good business partners, but what about us? I mean, how do I get to know your heart apart from the fact that we look good together, we both have great degrees and we make good money together? Do we have intimacy? What's our closeness like? What about the other parts of the relationship, the emotional, the spiritual parts of the relationship? So we make good business partners. That's number 4.
So when you say business partners, I want to clarify. You're simply not saying these two people are looking at starting a business together.
It could be that.
It could be that, but are you saying make good business partners? You're referring to if the two of us come together, we should be well off financially.
Big time. That's really the heart of what I'm saying.
So then how do you make sure someone does not give this too much weight or more weight than other things? Because even earlier you were talking about, well, when you are looking for the right person, you know, you need to check out finances.
Absolutely.
You need to check out money.
Right.
how do you make sure you don't go from one extreme to the other?
Well, we want to make sure by looking at all the facets. We want to look at who you are emotionally, who you are spiritually. I'm thinking of a couple of couples right now that I've worked with over the years, and they built their marital kingdom, so to speak, around the financial. They were able to accomplish more because they both had great income. Sometimes they worked together in a business. But what was lacking was the intimacy, okay? The closeness spiritually, emotionally. That was what was lacking. And so we want to definitely look at the financial aspects. This generally, a couple like this, the financial is not an issue for them. The issues for them is the relational, emotional, spiritual parts. Whereas for other couples, it's looking at finances are a mess. Okay, there's credit history issues and challenges. So for this couple, it's building their marital foundation around materialism, around what they can accomplish because they both come together financially, what they can achieve, what they can do.
Okay. We make good business partners. That's number 4. The next one, number 5, Johnny, I'm sure can be a tough one for older singles.
Yeah. This may be my last chance. We kind of see the marital train going down the track or the dating train going down our track, and you can see issues with the person that you may be dating or may be pursuing you or you may be pursuing. And you're right, for an older person, the fear sets in that this may be the last train going down the track, or I haven't seen a train in a long time, so let me get hitched.
And you're saying to them, it's still better to wait and go unhitched if it's not the right person.
Oh, absolutely, because I'll see that same person who got hitched, and then they had a train wreck, 2 years later.
Okay. And the last slide, Johnny, singles believe about finding a spouse.
Pressure from people to find a spouse. And again, Cheryl, this is probably more true for older singles, where they go amongst family and friends and they say, girl, you just too picky, or man, you just too picky. I mean, or they question that person, that single's sexuality. You okay? You're not funny. You're not gay or homosexual or anything like that, or lesbian. I mean, you just have a difficult personality. Why don't men date you? Or you just too picky? And so sometimes they'll make the decision to marry just to get family and friends off their back. Or if they really are dealing with the sexuality in a homosexual, lesbian way, thinking that marriage will take care of that. And it doesn't. If that's in a person, that's going to surface still later on in a marriage if they get married.
So how do you suggest a person handle all of the questions? I find it interesting. Why aren't you married as if you could get married by yourself?
Exactly. I know. Isn't that amazing? I can't imagine if I was an older single hearing that. And there are many single men and single women. They're good people. They're appropriate, and many of them are healthy singles, and they would welcome being married. I met a wonderful single lady Saturday who would welcome the idea of being married. You're right. You need some help. It's not like you can just go invent Adam or Eve. So, yeah, they would love to be married. And so the pressure, they can't let that pressure from outsiders influence them towards marriage. They have to be led by God.
What do you think about this? One of the things that I say to singles is when someone asks you that, make it very lighthearted and say, are you praying for me? Do you have anyone that you can recommend?
Exactly.
Because I think it's actually okay if you are single to let people know you are interested in meeting someone. Because a lot of times it may not occur to people, I do know someone who is single, a guy, and he's a great guy. I should bring about an introduction.
Exactly.
To get them thinking to be involved if they're that concerned about your single state.
And the thing is, why do we keep giving singles the message that something's wrong with you if you're not married? Why is that? I mean, why would some singles want to get married? They look at the state of so many marriages. Some singles are thinking, I could do bad by myself.
And they're very content.
Exactly. So nothing's wrong with singles who are not married.
Johnny, let me review the 6 lies singles believe about finding a spouse. Number 1, I'll just know because I believe in love at first sight. Number 2, it's better to live together first. Number 3, we have good sex, so this must be my soulmate. Number 4, we make good business partners. Number 5, desperation may set in, and you say, this is my last chance. And number 6, singles experience pressure from people to find a spouse, and they go ahead and get married.
Thanks so much, Johnny and Cheryl, for those tips for singles on finding the right one to marry. There is still much more to cover on this topic, so when Dr. Johnny Parker returns next month, he and Cheryl will offer more insights. Singles? This is a program you may want to listen to again. You can do so on our website, excellentliving.org. That's excellentliving.org. While there, you can read Cheryl's blog and sign up to receive our email updates. Our relationship expert, Dr. Johnny Parker, is a marriage and family counselor, conference speaker, and the author of several books, including Renovating Your Marriage Room by Room. To learn more about Johnny and to order his resources, just visit the website johnnyparker.com. That's johnnyparker.com. This program is made possible by listeners like you. Your gift, large or small, will encourage us and help keep this program coming your way. You can donate online with your credit or debit card or send your tax-deductible donation to Excellent Living, Post Office Box 15285, Chevy Chase, Maryland 20825. That's P.O. Box 15285, Chevy Chase, Maryland 20825. Before we end today's broadcast, here's a moment with best-selling author and former missionary Elisabeth Elliot.
Shall I be angry at a God who knows not only what I need, but when I need it? And then this is the thing that is very dangerous, and I would surmise that there's probably more than one person in this room this morning who is angry with God or upset with God, resentful because of something that has happened or something that has not happened. And this is the dangerous aspect. It makes us vulnerable to Satan, who is called the destroyer. Think what a dangerous position we put ourselves in voluntarily when we get angry with God. Is there anywhere else for us to turn? If you're angry with God, I don't know any other refuge. God is my refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble.
That was an Excellent Living moment with best-selling author Elisabeth Elliot. To find out more about her life and resources, visit ElisabethElliot.org. That's ElisabethElliot.org. If you're in need of prayer support, you can call our 24-hour prayer line, 832-766-1695. That's 832-766-1695. You can also email your request to prayer@excellentliving.org. We're so glad you tuned in today to Excellent Living. Remember, that's doing all of life God's way, because it's the best way.